So Anutsa, can you give the viewers who may not know sort of your origin story or who you are, basically how you got started, how you got into this industry? So just give us your origin story and from back then to where you are now.
Well, it started as a baby.
Not that far back.
Not that far back?
No, no.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Okay, we have enough time.
Yeah, if we don't want to ask any questions, you can tell us your life story in the next. How much time do we have? Oh,
well, it might. You might
minutes?
understand why I do what I do if we get the start.
Okay, you just start talking, and when the 45 minutes are up, I guess we'll just shut the show down.
We'll just shut it down. Okay, great. So actually, I'll start from 1999. Is that far back enough?
That's good, yeah.
Okay. So I started out as a life purpose and career consultant, and in the transition of careers for a huge transition for American Airlines. And that's how I got into personal growth and development. Although I had been introduced to it prior to that, and it's been always a piece of my life, but professionally, that's how I began. So come around, processing that 1999 and getting into the spirit of my work. And then come around 2005, I had a mentor share with me that I would want to look into anger management. And my reaction was to laugh because the only thing I knew about it was the movie, which is what everybody knows about anger management, right? So I thought, are you kidding me?
So you're going to become the new Jack Nicklaus of anger management?
Well, I sort of am, but I'm better than that, okay? Because, I'm not making people angry. I'm not testing them, so to speak, in that way.
Okay.
So, I laughed. And then once I stopped laughing, I decided to look into it. And it spoke to me. And it really made sense that what makes up the skill set that makes up anger management and how it's so helpful for people. The only problem is that there's this myth that anger management is for angry people.
Okay.
So we could get into that later, but so I wanted, to explain a little more that how I got into that with the History Channel. So I think it was two-sided here. First of all, there's not many women in anger management. So whenever I share with someone that I teach conflict resolution skills and anger management, they never remember that in a sense, or they laugh because they don't put the two together. Like, well, you're this tiny little 5'2" woman who teaches anger management. We are looking for some big burly dude who, so I said, no, well, because most people don't know what anger management is. So when it came to the 7 Deadly Sins, which is the documentary on the History Channel, we wanted to shed light around not just anger, but what anger is and what anger management is and how it's entered our society and how it helps people. So typically, I think that when you're looking for anger management or anger management services, you think of someone who is maybe having road rage or desk rage or, maybe, violence in their relationships, things like that. Those are very different things. Although they're interconnected, they're related. They are very different aspects of this process. So just to clarify, anger management is made up of 3 things: stress management skills, emotional intelligence, or what I call emotional fitness, and interpersonal communication skills, also known as assertive communication, which a lot of people confuse for aggressive communication. Okay. So did that answer your question, or do I need to go back?
No, that's perfectly fine. So, so how did you? So yeah, you answered the question about how you get into it. Someone just said, "Oh, you should go into it." So
she's a great mentor to me, and I thought, she must be kidding. I'm one of like the happy, how can I teach anger management? I can't even take it seriously. But actually, let me tell you something. You know, when I grew up, going back to that story about like the babysitting, when I grew up and being a child was different. It's not like it is now where, you know, we communicate with our children and we have conversations and we respect each other for the most part. When I grew up, you know, conflict was a natural piece of communication.
Yeah.
Because my parents didn't get those, you know, skills and those values, although they did their best and they were great parents. We believed in spanking. We believed in, you know, like washing your mouth out with soap if you lie. You're laughing.
That's because I lived that life.
Do you see? So did I. And that's exactly why when I was trained, I realized, wow, what if people had this in their everyday life? Why isn't this a component of what we're teaching in school? And now we do. And we understand the term soft skills, most of us, that they're, you know, relationship skills. And, you know, we understand the importance of stress management. Now, just because we understand it doesn't mean we use it.
That's right.
So we'll get into that further. So yeah, that's really how I got into conflict resolution, anger management, and I shared my story with the producers, and they thought it would be a good idea to bring me on.
Well, that leads me to the next question. So tell us, how did you actually end up getting on the History Channel to be on that 7 Deadly Sins show? Like, what led them to either connect with you or you connect with them? How did that all transpire? Just sort of tell us about that.
Well, I think I'm the only female in the documentary. As far as, you know, speaking about anger management and emotional fitness, things like that, you know, they contacted me and wanted to learn more about anger management.
So how did they find you? Like, how did they know
literally,
about
it was
you?
a Google search. It was organic.
And
it was that simple.
Were you the best-selling author at that point in time?
I was actually, I had completed my first, but it was an anthology.
Okay.
It didn't really have much to connect with that. It was more about doing, really what I did was I was very consistent with press releases and social media and blogging and keeping materials updated on the website.
So creating and distributing content on a regular basis.
All the time. I had a team for that. And that was, if I wasn't seeing someone, I was working on that.
Okay.
So that's really, I guess, you know, is what did it. In addition to just having, you know, being different in the field. So does that make sense?
One of the only women in the field, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've had individuals say to me, well, you know, do you feel comfortable doing that? You know, and I started out with court orders, and those are the people that are not interested in changing necessarily.
Yeah.
They're being forced to be there. So that's always a fun concept.
Oh, yeah.
You need humor for that one.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it progressed into organizations hearing about, you know, what I did. But, you know, we also did things like health fairs, but continuously promoting and marketing and putting ourselves out there, putting, you know, the facilitators out there, putting the organization out there, speaking engagements. Whatever I could find, I was on it.
So that the clip that we played was just over 3 minutes long. How long did it take to film that episode? Is there more clips or?
It was an entire day. You have no idea what they left on the editing floor. I mean, it was they came into my office and turned that place upside down. There was crew and people in there all day long, in and out, moving things. And then we had a bunch of my clients that were willing to be seen on the show and come into a group, and then they were all interviewed individually, and then they interviewed me. So I mean, it was a full day of production.
And then it only ended up being
for 3 minutes.
3 minutes long. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
typical.
Yeah. Well, I've been on
I was an extra in a movie with Sandra Bullock and Dennis Leary years ago, and just spent the entire day just standing around. And it was one scene that took them all day to get one scene and or get it ready, and they, you know, shot it a couple times or whatever. But it's like, seems like there's a lot of wasted time and effort to get that
split second.
Split second. Yeah. That's all it was a split second.
Yeah.
So
of footage.
Yeah, really. So as a result of being on the show, it's has it done anything to accelerate your authority in your space? What's it done with respect to getting clients? So how has it helped your business?
Well, it certainly helped my business in the realm of visibility, because they aired that for, I think it was 2 or 3 years in a row.
Okay.
And so it was, you know, the gift that kept on giving. And it was funny because they would air it around the holidays, which is one of the highest stress related, you know, times of the year, because people are doing things like spending money to impress people that they really don't care about, to look good, all these strange things that we do as human beings, right? But it's a very high stress. There's family gatherings, there's alcohol involved. So around that time of the year is typically when they would play it. And I would always hear about it from someone, because I never really kept close tabs on it, but right. I would know when it was airing, because someone would say, wow, we saw you on this show, and we'd like to know more about what you do.
Okay, excellent.